In this one, I want to make another piece on celibacy, but this time I want to talk to you all about sharing this information with other people. Because I noticed in other videos, someone asked the question of, how do you tell someone you're celibate? And I spent quite a little bit of time thinking about this, and it's actually something that I realized should be explained from someone that really thoroughly practices celibacy. And so I wanted to really give you all an answer as someone who's experienced both sides of telling someone you're celibate, and seeing basically the pros and cons of it. So the way that you do that is, first and foremost, you don't tell someone that you're celibate, because you shouldn't have to. If they are, in this world that we live in today, we live in a world where if something can be used against you in the hands of the wrong person, it will be used against you in the hands of the wrong person. So there is no circumstance where you will tell someone, the wrong person, that you are doing the right thing and it's going to end in your favor or it's going to help you. They will just look at that as it being a challenge. Or what they'll do is they'll still have their approaches, but they'll resent you as a result of it. They'll see it as some sort of thing that makes you better than them. And they won't be able to express it to you. They'll just resent you about it. And then their resentment will come out in other forms. Like, it'll just come out of nowhere. Like, you might say something simple as, oh, it's a great day outside. And they'll just be like, oh, got hurt yesterday. How dare you say it's a great day outside? And you would just be totally blown back at how they could take something so positive and twist it into something so negative. And really what it is it's bottled up aggression, sexual aggression. And the thing about it is, this is one thing you have to realize when you're celibate, and this is one thing that no one really has spoken of on media, is that your perception really changes on things. Your outlook, your mentality changes. You in that changing, you forget what it was once like to be very carnal, to be very sexually driven, and you forget just how much of the world is really sexually driven. People that live on that carnal sexual mindset, they understand the virtues, and they can appreciate the ideals of someone who's not involved in those things. However, that doesn't change the way they act when they don't get those things. That doesn't change the way they act when they're confronted with those things. Like when they're confronted with the visuals of you that intrigue them to you in the first place, that's what stimulates them. They're not on the same frequency of someone who's like, hey, I'm trying to change my life. And that's just the way it is. And that's just one of those decisions that you make in life which puts you on a thinner path in life. But that's something that is very important, and it's very crucial for people that are celibate, because the celibate mind would definitely ask, like, well, how do I tell someone that I'm celibate? Because I don't want to lose them as a friend, but I want them to just understand that I'm I'm going the right way. Because trust me, that's what it is to be a good person. To be a good person is to say, I don't want to lose them as a friend. I want to keep them around. I understand that they may want to have these feelings for me, but I don't want that to be a definitive thing. That's what a naive mind would think. That's what a purified mind would think. But the truth of the matter is that a righteous mind would understand further, through further understanding, that it's a lifestyle. You see what I'm saying? That it's a fine line. You know what I mean? But it's definitely a line. I mean, we literally are living in an era where sexuality is very much driving people, into all sorts of different lifestyles that we never thought they ever would, literally just 5 years ago. So when you're celibate, you have to remember that you're no longer thinking on that frequency. Now, if you were to tell this to the right person, you know what would happen? It would go in one ear and out the other. You know why? Because it wouldn't make a difference in your relationship. The person that really values you, that really respects your celibacy, is the person that's actually respecting the fact that you just don't sleep with them. That is truly respecting your celibacy, is not trying to sleep with you. Really genuinely having respect for you as a person and really appreciating your friendship. That truly is what celibacy is. So when you ask the question, well, how do I tell someone I'm celibate? You don't tell someone you're celibate. You just don't find yourself in situations that would even bring up the issue of your celibacy. I mean, that's truly what it is to be celibate. It's to live a lifestyle in that capacity. It's interesting, like I see a lot of videos where people discuss their celibacy, but then they also talk about how they're struggling with all these other different temptations that only people that are not celibate deal with. Like constantly dealing with people on the phone that are just trying to sleep with them. It's like, if you're celibate, then your lifestyle should be in a way to where you're no longer seeking that level of attention from the external, you know, from the opposite sex, to where you're finding other ways to fulfill yourself. You can't just be cut out the sex part. You can't just be like, oh, you know, I'm celibate, but I'm still gonna, you know, hit the club and get twisted. I'm just gonna leave the sex part out. That's when you get into complications. So what you're gonna find out when you really try to walk that line is you're just gonna prepare yourself for a lot of criticism. If you're a guy, you're gonna be getting called gay all the time, because that is the way that the most toxic of the carnal beings handle rejection of that kind. So toxic women are going to call you gay, and if they're dudes, they're going to basically just say you're like a whore, or you're like a slut, or something, whatever, you know what I'm saying, whatever it takes to just make your rejection come out bad. And they're not going to say this to you directly, they're going to say it to you indirectly. You're going to notice like all sorts of like weird smear campaigns in regards to your sexuality, all because you don't have any interest in them. And that's literally how the most toxic people engage. And another thing about the most toxic people and the way they engage as well is, one thing about the most toxic people is that the way they engage is really the most harmless. They're the ones that are gonna kind of engage you like the most eager to like try to be cool and nice, because they really want to like be able to get close, and they know that if they're like going to be honest with you, you'll never let them in close enough. So the most toxic people really come at you like super nice and super cool, and when you come at them and you're just like, hey, not today, well, the way that they're going to take what you said is, like I said, they're going to take it like a pearls before swine, and they're going to really be insulted. And their nature is going to come out. And it's going to come out in the way that they are, toxically, in a smear campaign. So where they call you gay, you know, or they allude to you being gay. They're like, oh, well, you know, the reason why you don't want to do this with me is because clearly you're clearly not into this. It's like, in reality, it could be something as simple as like, maybe you're not into the fact that they're active. You know, maybe you're not into the fact that there may be a different, you know, range in weight. Maybe they might be a different height. Who knows? You know what I mean? Especially if you are, but you know, I'm not gonna say too much. But that's one thing you will find when you do walk that thin line. If you do decide to, you know, totally disregard everything I'm saying in this video and prove that you can, you know, I guess be out in the club, tell everyone you're celibate, and just get nothing but love. I'm saying that when you're celibate and you truly live a celibate life, it's very easy to lose track of what it's like to not be celibate. The way I want to end this, because I may be leaving some details out, is I will make future content about this to add on to this content, if I am. But I want to leave it in that. The one thing you want to keep in mind when you're celibate is that you really can't, when you decide to be celibate, you're deciding to take a path that is a path of righteousness, okay? And a lot of people don't like to really choose between good and evil. They really just want to sit there and try to walk little like fine lines. But there's certain decisions in your life which really put you on one side over the other. And I mean that to say that once you decide to take certain paths on one side, you can't cross paths with people on the other side, or else you're always going to find yourself running into very, 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 very big issues. Celibacy is one of those things. You can't be a celibate being and also expose that to people that are not of that same path in life. It's not that you can't particularly exist, but I say that to say that you can't. the purpose is to separate yourself from them in that way entirely. You can't partially, you can't parlay with the dark side when it comes to sexuality and then only cut out the sex part. You have to specifically decide, I'm not going to be involved with myself in that way when it comes to this thing, like, or whatever. Like, there's just certain things like that you have to have there has to be a line between that will prevent you from a lot of things. And so whenever you find yourself in situations where you have to explain yourself, usually it's because you're trying to walk that thin line. So anyways, I'm just rambling a little bit, but I do want to make a little piece about that, how to tell someone yourself, because it has been something I've been thinking about for quite some time now. And it's something I've really just recently started to really thoroughly understand, and it's something I want to share with you all, because I thought it was a great question. So anyways, y'all, it's your boy Diesel, concluding another one. Actually, you know what I told you, I'm not going with that anymore. It's Brian, concluding another one for you all. I'm going to go ahead and get back to what I'm doing. Check you on the next one. Signing out.